Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your Reverend Shorty, and it feels like the world is trying to tell me something, and that is I should read a lot of comic books and watch a lot of movies with slashers in. So today it's Deadhead. And why am I talking about slashers? Well, over the weekend I caught up on my favourite hobby, which is watching horror movies. I've got to say, good boy, absolutely fantastic. Can't say I'm going to watch it like a lot. It was a tough watch, but a very enjoyable one. But what I'm absolutely going to go back to, possibly up there in like top 5 best movies I've seen so far this year, was Bloody Axe Wound. A fantastic, very, very meta, very self-aware, very queer slasher movie. Did everything I wanted it to, and including doing stuff better than other things I've seen. And Deadhead, when I saw it come in today, I was like, right, yep, this has to be something I'm going to read. It is 100% within that kind of wheelhouse. It is very aware of what it is, and it does what it sets out to do mostly brilliantly. I do have a couple of... Well, I've got one very minor quibble on one, which I think we'll see how it goes. First off, Iron Age Comics, Iron Age Studios. You need to sort out whoever's doing your like cutting and binding, because several of the pages along the opposite of the spine were like stuck together to the point that to like try and open them up without damaging anything, and there was some damaging to the pages. Now, it's my comic book. I'm not putting it on sale, so doesn't really affect me too much, but it's the kind of thing which customers might not enjoy. It's only a minor thing, but I figure, yeah, if anyone else involved in that company watches this, there you go, that's something you now know. Another slightly larger criticism is a little bit of writing, a couple of beats in it. We get introduced to a character which, if I know my story beats, if I know my narrative structure, he's going to be, if not the primary antagonist, at least leading up to the introduction of the primary antagonist. And when he gets to do a whole bunch of exposition of setting himself up and the world up, it's a little dry. Some of the writing feels like it's pretty good and it's heading in the right direction. It can't maintain the rhythm and pace I think it needed to really get across the character, because the way he's drawn, the way he's presented on the page, you get a certain look, a certain vibe from him. There's something even about the colours used, the angle we get when we get close up on his face. He's a man who is absolutely going to lay it on thick when it needs to, but when you're actually reading the stuff that he's saying, there's a couple of beats where I'm just like, right, okay, if this was slightly better paced, if the layouts meant that there was a slightly better flow to it, maybe even if the letterer just threw an extra little bit of mustard on occasionally, I think I'd have got a better sense of him being more of a threat rather than just somebody who's giving me a rundown of some things that have happened. Now, that being said, it's one of the things that didn't spoil what I got out of the comic book. It is exposition building up to something, and as long as that payoff is good, I'm going to let it slide. But the stuff that I really enjoyed from it is the kind of almost meta-narrative of what it is to be slashers, and literally slashers in the world that also have movies made about them, and somebody trying to stop it. Again, feels very Bloody Axe Wound, and I have absolutely no problem making that comparison. It also looks fantastic. I'm going to have to give credit. I think it's Gabriel Fonseca. Apologies if I mispronounced that surname. Wonderful artist. Really gets the idea of huge, dynamic, over-the-top fight scenes. Some brilliant double-page splashes, which all look amazing. And especially when I'm comparing it to Final Boss, where a lot of those double-page spreads were kind of more just to show off individual characters and the design of it. This is done to show off the brutality and the violence of it all. And my lord, the brutality and violence is fantastic. I've got to say, another one of those bloody action things that really landed it for me is absolutely understanding that, yes, you have to have cool characters and the story has to make sense, the narrative has to flow, but if you don't have the really cool death scenes, you are going to alienate your target audience. And I'm looking at you, Founders Day. You're a crap movie, sort yourself out. In this one, though, no such notes. This is absolutely fantastic. And the artistry is probably the biggest selling point of it on multiple levels. Not only is the colouring fantastic use of onomatopoeia, the Kasplat, I think it was Kasplut, whatever it is, I can't remember it now, but it was brilliant and inspired. But also just down to the basic of character design. The characters are clearly human. They are not going for too much over-the-top stylized choices. They're not really pushing it too far into not looking like they could exist in the real world, but there's still some wonderful choices made that kind of just highlights and emphasizes just a few key features of characters, and it's just kind of enough to make them stand out, to be different. It's that little stylistic nod without really going heavy-handed on it. Because if they're going to go heavy-handed on anything, it's on the massive amounts of violence. That's it for me for now, though. Until I'll see you all again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!